for the grand total for what I made in 2023 selling knitwear patterns. I made— Hi everyone! Welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you're new. My name is Katrina and I live in Vancouver, BC, Canada. And today I wanted to talk to you guys about how much money I made selling knitting patterns in 2023. So 2023 was my first year ever releasing knitting patterns, and I only released 2 patterns, so I'm a very new designer, but I did make a little bit of money on Etsy and Ravelry, so I wanted to talk to you guys today about how that went, what my strategy was. That's pretty much it. Like, just if you're interested, if you're a new designer, or if you're wanting to get into designing knitwear patterns but not really sure how that experience is, I just figured I would share with you so you can kind of see what that was like for me, because I always found these videos really interesting, and I was always looking for videos like this, so I figured this could help other people too. And stick to the end, because that's when I'm going to go over the grand total of everything I made this year selling patterns. But I'm also going to break it down by how much I made on Etsy versus how much I made on Ravelry. And those were the only 2 platforms that I was selling on this year. So I didn't have my own website and wasn't selling on Ravelry, so just Etsy and Ravelry. With that all being said, let's get right into it. Woo! Okay, in 2023, I released 2 patterns. I released my Luna cat sweater pattern at the end of April, so April 25th, and that is my most successful pattern sales-wise. In August 27th, I released my Birch Vest, and that garment has done pretty okay for me, but not as great as my cat sweater pattern. So I think what happened here was I kind of found a hole in the market, I guess. Originally, I was looking for patterns to make for my hairless cat, Luna. I'll show you a picture of her. And I couldn't really find any good patterns on Ravelry or Etsy, and there wasn't really exactly what I was looking for. I just wanted something really basic and beginner, and I couldn't really find that. So I was like, well, I'm at the place now where I could design that myself, and so that's why I decided to design this one. And I think that's why that pattern was so successful, because it was something that I couldn't find the pattern for. And a lot of other people probably had that same struggle of, oh, I can't find this pattern. So that would be kind of my recommendation to you if you're looking to design something and you want it to be really successful. Try to find a hole in the market where it's unique and it's something that people are looking for, because I wasn't huge on social media at all in 2023. I'd get a couple thousand views here and there on TikTok sometimes, and I have like 300 followers on Instagram, so I wasn't driving traffic to my patterns through like having a big following or anything like that. This was purely organic growth from Etsy and Ravelry, and then later on using ads on Etsy as well. Another thing I wanted to say is I obviously don't do YouTube full-time. This is just a hobby for me because I like teaching people about slow fashion and trying to get people more into slow fashion. Social media and YouTube and even designing is kind of just like a side thing for me and a hobby for me. My full-time job is being a graphic designer. So this was also really beneficial to me in my pattern writing journey, because a lot of legibility and readability for patterns is the way they're laid out. So a lot of times people are like, oh, this is a really hard pattern to follow, or this is a really easy pattern to follow. A lot of that is not necessarily based on the words that are being used. It's the way that the page is laid out to make it understandable and to make things highlighted that are important and to draw attention to where you need to be looking, essentially. And so my knowledge as a graphic designer was really beneficial to me as a pattern knitwear designer. So that's something to keep in mind too if you're wanting to sell patterns. I would definitely recommend looking into some basics of graphic design. My recommendation to you is download Figma. It's free for the first kind of, I think you can make a couple projects on there, but you can make infinite amount of pages on one project pretty much on Figma. So I would definitely recommend learning that. There might be a little bit of a learning curve with it, it's not going to be as easy as Canva. Canva is a really good option too if you're new, but no one talks about Figma, and it's a really great free, up to a certain point, tool that you need to get on Figma. It's amazing. Okay, with all that spiel out of the way, let's get into the actual numbers. I'm going to talk about Etsy first, and then we'll go into Ravelry a little bit quicker after. My very first month selling on Etsy was April 2023, because that's, like I said, released the pattern on the 25th of April. So already pretty late in the month, and we already had some really great progress. So my total sales in April was $59.40. My fees were $8.64. In total, I made $41.34 in April. I think I actually sold a top that I sewed this month as well. And so that's where a lot of the money came from this month. So apologies, that wasn't a knitwear design. So I think truly sales-wise, $9.40 came from my designing patterns. That's the only month I have anything else on Etsy, and then from there on forward, it's just knitwear designs. So that's why that month is a little different. Getting into May, I made $95.08. And my fees were $22.44. Marketing was $2.13. Now, I wasn't actually marketing my patterns like through Etsy's marketing and ads. This happens when your product is being shown on Google. And when you get a click from Google and someone purchases from there, Google takes a little bit of money for that. And you can't really control that. It just automatically happens to help you out as someone trying to sell, essentially. So it's kind of like a Google AdSense fee. And that's why it's pretty low, because it just happens sometimes when someone ends up buying from there. And this is a really good thing, because that means that your SEO, your search engine optimization, is really good. So you are showing up on Google when people are searching. And like I said before, there's not a lot of cat sweater knitwear patterns out there. And so I think that's why this was so successful, showing up on Google's homepage. So my net profit for Etsy in May was $59.56. And a couple things here too. When you very first release a pattern, your first pattern ever, it kind of gets boosted a little bit on Ravelry. So I think that's what happened too. My pattern ended up getting promoted to more people on Ravelry, and it was getting a lot of likes, or a lot of favorites. And so people were visiting and purchasing through that. And another big way that I got sales was looking through my Etsy analytics. I can see that people were being driven to my Etsy page through a website called knithacker.com, which I guess is like kind of a knitting blog, and they talk about how you can hack patterns. But it was just a quick little blog article about my cat sweater pattern. So they wrote, "Luna is an easy knit 3-hour cat sweater that comes in 5 sizes," which is true. That's what it is. So that got posted May 16th, 2023. And that actually drove a lot of traffic to my Etsy and a lot of sales. So clearly that blogger has, like, people have a lot of trust in them, because the amount of clicks and sales was really great. A total, let me just take a look really quick here. Total traffic from KnitHacker for the whole year was 270 visits. And my total traffic from Ravelry was 123. So that's really interesting, because this website, this blog, was driving a lot more traffic than even Ravelry was, which could happen for a couple of reasons. I think a lot of times if someone's seeing my pattern on Ravelry, they're going to automatically buy it through Ravelry. Most people won't go from Ravelry to purchase on Etsy. And I think it's because a lot of people are aware that Ravelry doesn't actually take as many fees as Etsy does, so it's a little bit, if you want to support a designer, it's a little bit better if you purchase through Ravelry than from Etsy. So keep that in mind if you are trying to support me or any other of your favorite designers. Either, like, the best thing to do is to go directly on their website and second best Ravelry, last best Etsy. But Etsy has its own benefits, which is like its marketing, pushing it out to other people. And so that's why we use it, that's why we love it. So that's that about May. June, I made a total of $117.50 worth of sales. My fees for June were $28.77. $4.97 of that fee was marketing. And my net profit for June was $83.76. So this was already a pretty big jump from May. It's almost double. And so this was really exciting to me. I was starting to feel like so proud of myself and really like, oh my gosh, if I put out a bunch of patterns, like this could be something sustainable for me one day. So I was feeling really good about this month. Not much else to say. This is still a month where I just had the one pattern up. So yeah, I was starting to feel really good about this month. Okay, so for July, my sales were $129.47 and fees were $31.93 and fees from marketing were $4.15. And then my net profit from Etsy in July was $93.39. So this was also a really great month. Around this time, perhaps a little bit earlier, I also started posting my pattern on Pinterest. It's a lot of P's, it's a lot of alliteration. So basically, I would make a post on Pinterest with the picture of like my cat Luna wearing the pattern. Oh yeah, by the way, that's why I call it Luna Cat Sweater, this first one, because it's named after Luna, my cat. But anyways, I posted the picture of her wearing it and then I would have it linked to my Etsy so that whenever someone clicked it on Pinterest, it would take them directly to my Etsy to purchase it. And then I would do that for a couple different pictures I had of her wearing it, and then that would lead them to Etsy. And Pinterest is a really great way. It's kind of a lottery too. Like if you end up just going viral or you have a post that gets saved by a big Pinterest creator, you'll get a lot of clicks, and that's just a really awesome way to get more clicks on your patterns too if you don't have a large social media following. Social media following. Like, it's hard to talk sometimes. I apologize. Okay, let's get straight into August. So I posted my pattern for the birch vest in August, but I didn't get any sales on it on Etsy until December this year. I did get some sales from it on Ravelry when it first released. Like I said, Ravelry kind of bumps new stuff and tries to show it because I think that's how its algorithm works. But there's a couple of reasons for that, I believe. One of them is, I guess it's similar possibly to, well, there's a lot of different tank top patterns out there and I'm a new designer, so it's hard to get that in front of people's eyes. Another issue was that I posted this in August and it's very much like a summer top. And if you'll notice, with knitting takes a long time and most people aren't casting on new summer knits at the end of summer. We were kind of like, by the time it's August, knitting brain, you're already working on your fall whips. People get really excited for fall and winter, like sweaters and things like that. So unfortunately, it just wasn't great timing for this pattern. And now I'm a little bit more cognizant of like, you know, wanting to release summer patterns in the summer and wanting to release more winter style patterns during the winter and that sort of thing. So that's just something to keep in mind too when you're designing and when you're releasing patterns, is to try to release them at times that make sense. And if you're in Australia, then you can get a lot of sales on the other side of the world when it's winter for them and summer for us. Okay, so for August, sales was $172.48. Fees were $42.97. Marketing was $5.68. And my total net profit for August was $123.83. So it's going up slowly but surely, which is very exciting for me. Another thing that's really great about my cat sweater pattern thing too is that a lot of pets can get cold even in the house. during the summertime because people have their ACs on to make it comfortable for people, but cats like to be warm, especially hairless cats. So then you might want to put a sweater on your pet to keep them warm, but you want to have it cooler in your house for yourself to be comfortable. So that was something that I was hearing from a lot of people as well, like within reviews or messages. And so I think that's why this pattern was also very successful all year long. But that being said, coming into September, we're starting to come into colder months and fall in we're the northern hemisphere, right? I think so. And so this is when my sales really started to fly, is September. So my sales for the month of September were $335.56. My fees were $82.28. Whoa, it's getting rough out here with the fees. I'm not gonna lie, the Etsy fees, I might have to make my own website soon. And for marketing, I spent $16.33. That was just from like the off-site ads, like the Google ads, like I said. And my net profit on Etsy in September was $236.95. Okay, so like I was saying, September really started to take off for me. In October, I was really just riding that high of that increase in sales. That's the word I'm looking for. So my sales in October of 2023 were $494.65, and my fees were a whopping $120.98. And for marketing, and this is just from offsite ads, like I was talking about the Google ads, $20.48. So my net profit for the month was $353.19. And as you can imagine, this was super exciting for me. Who's feeling really good this month, and I am so grateful for that. So anyways, I don't want to like get all sappy, but it was just really starting to feel like, okay, maybe this is something I can do and that I can really take seriously, and started thinking about new designs that I want to make. And these months, October till December, are really busy in my industry as a graphic designer, so I wasn't having as much time to work on making new patterns. I was also doing a play around that time, like in October, so I wish I could have put out more patterns, but unfortunately I was just very, very busy. So this year it's really something I'm going to focus more on, getting more patterns out and that sort of thing. So with all that being said, November, my sales were $629.48. My fees were $157.81. And like I was saying, this was the point where I was like, maybe I need to start taking this more seriously, and I was doing some research, and it was saying that Etsy ads can be a really great way to boost your posts and get more eyes on your post and get more sales. So I ended up signing up for Etsy ads, and the great thing about Etsy ads is you can control how much money you spend on them every day. So I set it super low. I just said I want to spend $1 on marketing every day for each of my patterns. So it will show it up to $1 every day to people, and it takes some time for this to be effective because it takes time for Etsy to figure out who is clicking and who is purchasing and who's kind of the correct audience for this. So it really helps to leave this alone for a really long time and let it take a couple months to do its thing. So that's when I first implemented it, was in November, and spent $32.89 on the Etsy ads, and the offsite ads ended up being $18.35. So that's $51.24 total for marketing, which leaves me with my net profit for Etsy in November was $420.43, which was super exciting. And that was my biggest month for the entire year on Etsy, was November. So that was kind of like where I peaked. I think people got a little bit busier in December and a lot of Christmas gifts being bought, so things are just slowed down there. But November was my best month for sales, which is super cool. So December was still a really great month. The sales were $543.42. Fees were $134.21. And then marketing fees were $63.28 total. That leaves me with my total net profit for the month of December was $345.93. So that is the entire year on Etsy and how much I made every month. So for my total revenue for Etsy for 2023 was $2,575.69. So that was my take home for the year from Etsy. So now let's take a look at what I made on Ravelry. Okay, so like we talked about, April was my very first month selling my very first pattern, which was the Luna cat sweater pattern. So on Ravelry, I made $18.80, and I didn't have to pay any fees because if you're making under, I believe it's $30 USD a month, you don't have to pay fees on that. Oh, I just wanted to mention too, when I first released my Luna cat sweater pattern, I was charging $4.70, and in November I raised that price to $4.90. So just a little bump there, and that didn't affect my sales whatsoever. That's what happened there. So yeah, for April, $18.80 on Ravelry. May was pretty similar on Ravelry. I made $19.74 in May, and once again, no fees on that because it's under the amount to have to pay fees. This is why Ravelry is amazing. June on Ravelry, I made $18.80. July, I made $14.39. Then August, I ended up publishing my Birch Vest pattern as well. So I made a couple sales on that pattern on Ravelry the first month that it released. So my total sales was $39.90, and this was the first month that I had to pay fees, but they were very minimal. It was like under $2. In September, I made $69.30. So once again, pretty big jump. In October on Ravelry, once again, I made $70.50. In November, I made $139.80, so that was a huge leap, and that was also my best month on Etsy, keep in mind. So that is a huge November was popping off for me for that, so that was really awesome. In December, I made $92.90, so also a really great month. That leaves me with my total sales on Ravelry being $490.91. For the grand total for what I made in 2023 selling knitwear patterns, I made $3,066.60. So, overall thoughts, I am super happy with that. When I first started, I didn't have any goals. My goal was just to try to make a little bit extra money so that I could spend that money to buy more yarn so that I could knit more. And it really blew my expectations away for thinking like, wow, maybe this could be a career for me, maybe this is something I could keep doing. I'm just really blown away and so happy for the support. So I hope that this is inspiring to you if you've wanted to design knitwear patterns to go ahead and give it a try. And if you are already selling, I hope that this is like giving you the motivation you need to keep going if it's been hard. And yeah, like I said, I always like seeing these videos and kind of seeing how it's going for other people to get a kind of gauge. So with all that being said, I hope you enjoyed this video. Please go ahead and leave a comment, ask all your questions. I'm super happy to answer if you have any questions about this topic. Leaving a like would super helped me on this video. If you want to see more from me, I would love it if you would subscribe. We're so happy to have you part of my little knitting family here, so that'd be super fun. And signing off, go check out my last video where I show some of my favorite knitting patterns for winter and spring from some other really great designers. So thank you so much for being here, and I'll talk to you later.